Compliments of the new seasons, people of Zimbabwe. I trust that God is protecting you as we are beginning our year 2024. Today I'm coming to share a message regarding what we have been hearing for some years now. Besides that, it came as a prophecy, but it was also a known fact that Zimbabwe was a breadbasket of Africa. Still, we believe that Zimbabwe is going to be the breadbasket of Africa according to the prophecies. So there are many questions that are being asked, especially the questions that are being raised, that these are just talks because there are climate changes. People are pointing to climate change, global warming, and so forth, and say this will not happen. But as I was also pondering upon these questions, God poured something in my spirit that I want to share with you. That as much as we believe that science is there to give us what is happening natural or scientifically, we must understand that there's also God who can also do things, the impossible things. However, apart from that, I want to show you that even in seasons like this, where seasons are changing, times are changing, climate change and so forth, it's still very possible for Zimbabwe to be a breadbasket of Africa. How? This is a question. And when? First of all, I want to take you to the book of Genesis to just show you that we have people who experience drought. During that drought, Isaac also planted. He plowed and he harvested 100-fold during the time where it was pointed that it was time of drought, and he managed to have abundant harvest. How did this happen? Let us hear first.
Genesis chapter 26. And there was a famine in the land, beside the first famine that was in the days of Abraham. And Isaac went unto Abimelech king of the Philistines unto Gerar. And the Lord appeared unto him, and said,
Go not down into Egypt. Dwell in the land which I shall tell thee of. Sojourn in this land, and I will be with thee, and will bless thee, for unto thee and unto thy seed.
And Isaac departed thence, and pitched his tent in the valley of Gerar, and dwelt there. And Isaac digged again the wells of water, which they had digged in the days of Abraham his father.
So I want to show you that when the Bible talks about the famine that was there, Isaac introduced a system of irrigation, so to speak. So in our case, as I was looking at this, and God started to minister to me and said, what Zimbabwe needs is that it must also create dams, many dams as much as possible. Besides that, the scientific changes, the climate change that we can see. This is where we are praying for Zimbabwe to be prosperous. This is where we are praying that the resources of Zimbabwe will be used correctly, so that when this happens, then there will be allocations of money to build dams. In the case of Isaac, there were wells, but he managed to harvest 100-fold. So Zimbabwe can also do that. It has good land, it has minerals which can bring resources. So this is the resources that can bring Zimbabwe to its realization and to the fulfillment of the prophecy, or to go back to it has been, despite the climate change and all the things that can be pointed to. Then second, I want you to understand that there is also the wisdom that the government or the nation must have. I once shared some of the messages partial on that we know that people are doing farming, but I believe that the nation must have proper farms that are managed by the government, proper farms where people can allocate budgets for the farms for the nation, so that they can have matura enyika, not only collecting from farmers, while other farmers, peasants and so forth will be doing their work. there must also be proper farms for the nation, so that it will help during the time of drought and so forth, in order to feed the nation. As much as they are doing what they are calling Munu Mutapa, whatever fund, which we know that it is meant to save for the nation, but I believe that the nation, if it managed to have farms that are managed by the government, we can also sustain the nation and even export. So this is something that was just coming in as I was meditating, pondering upon this, and I believe that it is possible. Then the third thing that I want to share with you is that as much as we have doubters that this will not happen, people are just dreaming. Those who give prophecies, those who think Zimbabwe is going to rise, there are many changes that are happening globally. Let me tell you, there's a man who also said that, and I want you to hear the scripture. He said, even if the windows of heavens are going to open, nothing like that will happen. Samaria had experienced hunger, and no one knew where the next meal was coming from. People were eating each other, to extent that the donkey's head and matoto were also being sold in order for people to sustain themselves. So in such an environment, it is very difficult for a person to believe that is something can happen that can feed people. But I want you to hear
2 Kings chapter 7. Then Elisha said,
Hear ye the word of the Lord. Thus saith the Lord, Tomorrow about this time shall a measure of fine flour be sold for a shekel, and 2 measures of barley for a shekel in the gate of Samaria.
Then a Lord on whose hand the king leaned answered the man of God and said,
Behold, if the Lord would make windows in heaven, might this thing be?
And he said,
Behold, thou shalt see it with thine eyes, but shall not eat thereof.
And the people went out and spoiled the tents of the Syrians. So a measure of fine flour was sold for a shekel, and 2 measures of barley for a shekel, according to the word of the Lord. And the king appointed the Lord on whose hand he leaned to have the charge of the gate. And the people trode upon him in the gate, and he died, as the man of God had said, who spake when the king came down to him. And it came to pass, as the man of God had spoken to the king, saying,
2 measures of barley for a shekel, and a measure of fine flour for a shekel, shall be.
So we have heard this. So in conclusion, I just want to encourage and to let the nation of Zimbabwe that it is very possible for the nation to become the breadbasket of Africa through proper farming. Apart from that, because it's a promise, we have a conducive environment, ground resources. Apart from the natural rain that can come, people can use those resources to build dams. It's very possible. I showed you how Isaac managed to be very successful even during the time of drought. People can point to El Nino and other things that can cause drought, but we can still use resources to harness water and also do irrigation. Remember, Gaddafi, he drew water kilometers and kilometers from afar. Dubai was a desert. So nothing is impossible if people believe and also work with their resources. So we as intercessors, we are praying, blessing, and we standing upon the promises of God, and also believing that God has given us enough resources to realize these promises and these prophecies. So let's continue to pray so that our political environment will also be good, so that the economical environment will be good, to create these things, and so that we can realize the promises of God. God bless you. Shalom. This is what I thought I have to share with you as we start the year, expecting what God can do for us. Shalom.